Welcome back to another edition of the Talking National League podcast. Episode 19 is tonight. Probably as you can see, I'm wearing my England top tonight. I hope everyone is well. It's hard to believe, in fact, that it's just over a month to go until the World Cup does obviously kick off. Fortunately for all National League supporters and, of course, non-league supporters, games won't be suspended during that time as of now. Obviously, it may change depending on how England do further in the competition. Premiership and Championship clubs games will be suspended, so it might be a good opportunity for certain clubs in non-league and the National League to add initiatives to hopefully improve attendances during that time. Yes, I think it's more or less time just to basically tell you what's going to be coming up on tonight's show. So I'm proud to be joined by Niall tonight from Fair Game. We're going to be doing an exclusive interview with him, talking about everything they're doing there. As the title does also state, the FA Cup is back this weekend, and I'm pleased to actually be joined by St Ives assistant manager later in the show. We'll be speaking to him about what it means for a side like St Ives to make it this far in the competition and what could potentially happen if they do defeat Halifax and how huge and significant that could be for their club. Hopefully, as a Halifax fan, that doesn't come to be the case. Also, a bit of National League talk as well. Tuesday night, Dagenham versus York, or York versus Dagenham, I should say. 1-1 draw. We'll be doing a quick review on that before finally be joined by Thomas from Torquay Talk to talk a bit about Torquay and all the problems going on there. Unfortunately, it's not in the best of circumstances with Torquay currently sitting bottom of the National League. So yeah, I think that's more or less it. Just a bit of quick admin for some of you that may be watching. You've noticed we've started doing some Twitter Spaces. Really good and really great to see people getting interactive with the podcasts over there. Also doing like live phone-ins. It's great to see. Great to have a range of fans coming on, and hopefully we can do these more often and potentially more often as well. But yeah, Patreon and stuff like that. Hopefully we'll be getting set up with that very, very soon. Also, as always, it'd be much appreciated if you could drop the podcast a like. It'd be much appreciated, and also subscribe to the channel too. We've already had somebody coming in said thoughts on Maidstone's form. We'll discuss that later in the show. We won't forget that comment. We'll go back to them when we have some spare time later on in the show. But for now, let's bring our first guest in tonight, which is, of course, Niall.
Hiya, Luke.
Hiya, Niall. It's great to speak to you. So, just for people who aren't aware, could you give a bit of an overview of what Fair Game are doing over there?
Yeah, sure. No worries. I mean, basically, we're about trying to get a fairer deal for football clubs and look at trying to encourage sustainable way of being in football. So we're 34 football clubs, quite a lot in the National League, all kind of joining together to campaign for better governance, financial sustainability, proper fan engagement, proper community engagement, and all that. For a long time, clubs in the National League have struggled to get a voice on a national stage. And what we're doing is bring together clubs throughout the pyramid so that when they get a phone call, when Fair Games comes knocking, that we actually get a chance to be heard and to listen to the plight of some brilliant community, hard-working football clubs all the way through the pyramid. And the National League's full of them. So that's who we're championing. So it's all about that. It's about giving us a voice and hopefully getting a fairer deal than we've got at the moment, which is pretty rubbish, to be honest, Luke.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's great to have your opinion on that. Just for my opinion, me learning a bit more about it as well. What sort of clubs in the National League have signed up to this?
So we've got Ebbsfleet, Maidstone, Darlington, Chester. I could go for a longer list. I'm going to get into so much trouble with all the other clubs that I'm going to miss out here. Gateshead, Dorking. Probably mentioned Maidstone already. God, and there's quite a lot of league clubs as well. So you have Accrington, Rochdale, Grimsby, AFC Wimbledon, Leyton Orient, Luton, Bristol Rovers, Bath City. I'm doing my little geography around on the map of the country to try and remember. Shrewsbury, Worcester. So there's quite a lot of good clubs there. that have worked really hard to try and make a difference. I mean, we have Bury AFC as well, Altrincham. Yeah, quite a lot. And apologies to the ones I've undoubtedly missed that are going to be cursing me now.
Potentially Halifax, or have they not signed up?
We did sound out Halifax a while back, and we would love to have them on board. They're exactly the sort of club. They've got a good fan model there. That we'd love to look at getting those sort of clubs. So, Luke, if you can go knocking on the door for us and do a little intro, I'll be more than happy to speak to Halifax Town. And there's lots of other clubs out there. I mean, ultimately, the issue is trying to organise the time. The clubs work so hard at our level to try and actually do just day to day to survive. I mean, it's so difficult with the cost of living crisis, the pandemic, all of that has been an absolute, it's been a disaster for football. And what we're trying to do is give all those clubs a helping hand in the bit that they can't do, which is trying to change the way football operates, create a fairer financial flow. We all know how there's loads of money at the top end of the pyramid, and if you just throw us a few more crumbs, then it's the difference between life or death for a football club at the lower levels.
Yes, certainly. I totally agree with you on what you've said there. We'll come back to that in a second. I'll just head over to the chat because I know a few people have got involved. Obviously, we've seen that message said gun to head, who's finishing first. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Thoughts on York, same. Is it being recorded, Luke? Yes, this is always recorded every week. It'll be on afterwards if you can't tune in tonight live. And someone's actually put, how about Marine FC? If Marine got involved?
Do you know what? There's a few clubs out in that area that we have City of Liverpool, we have Tranmere out in there. So again, it's about if people can get those connections and get people introduced to us, then we'd be really proud and happy to have them on board. I mean, what we've been doing is looking at a lot of the financial flow. So just give you a very classic example. One club getting relegated from the Premier League, it's £55 million, right, for getting relegated. Well, that's more than all the clubs of League One, League Two, National League North, National League South, top two tiers, the women's game put together. That's one club getting more than the other 140. And for a club like Marine, having a share of that 55 million, forgetting the fact that there are 8 clubs that get parachute payments each year, that would be transformational. That's the difference between, being able to afford your heating bills or not. When we're looking at National League clubs, you're going to be seeing energy bills go up by something between £50,000 to £100,000 in a year, and that's just not sustainable at that level. We need to be looking at football starting to care about the other end of the pyramid, because we're at the National League. We're all the kind of lifebloods. You're the heart and soul of football. Without communities throughout all of it, and we really can't be affording to turn our backs on it, which is what my view is what's happening at the moment, and then that needs to change.
Yeah, it certainly does. I totally agree with what you've stated there. Also, just to add, didn't the Premier League put, I believe, 12 million in the other week as well to the National League? How far do you think that could potentially go? Do you think it's enough? What's your opinion on that?
Peanuts. Mm-hmm. It's peanuts. It's about trying to, where the Premier League is at the moment, is they're really worried about the independent regulator. Yeah. It absolutely terrifies them, because the independent regulator then starts looking at what are the bigger issues within football, and which is a lot about having clubs that are financially unsustainable, having clubs that don't care about community engagement, but ultimately weakening the power of the Premier League and giving it to an organisation that would look at caring about the whole of the football pyramid long term. So your 12 million quid is about saying, shut up now. They want to forget about the independent regulator, forget about something that would be for the long-term benefit of the game. That's what it is. It is not something that we should think of going, that's one. I mean, it's great, but there's a bigger fight to have, and there's a bigger goal, and that is an independent regulator that takes all of those decisions out of the Premier League and gets a group of people that care about the pyramid. Because the Premier League are a fantastically brilliant organisation of 20 billionaires looking after 20 billionaires.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's not 20 billionaires caring about football. If you think that, then you're very, very naive, because it's not. They are people who are ultimately interested in their own business, and they're brilliant at it. Don't deny they're fantastic at looking after the 20 billionaires of the Premier League. They're not really long-term going to care much about Halifax, Marine, Dorking, Wanderers, Maidstone, Tunbridge. That's not who they're bothered about.
Yeah, yeah, I agree on what you've just stated there. Yeah, and I think that's something that's quite recurring as well. You look at the amount of ex-league clubs, national league clubs that go into administration, go bust, and all it takes for just a bit of support from one of these billionaires in the Premiership. You look at Bury FC, they've gone bust. They're competing in the FA Cup, the lowest ranked team in the FA Cup. This weekend competing. A long time ago, they wouldn't have even have to have played at this stage, would they? Because they'd be in the Football League. And I think this is what I'm sort of adding on this is the fact that so many clubs, Halifax, Aldershot, Wrexham, used to have all had significant financial issues. They've gone bust, they've reformed. Certain sides, have been on the skin of their teeth of going bust and going into administration. And you look at the times now, the energy crisis and everything, the cost of living, and you just think, is it time now for the Premiership to really get involved with the National League and start creating a bit of a relationship with them and helping them to fund for things like this with the current crisis that we're having at the moment?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, I think well, the one point on that is, should it be the Premier League and should it be somebody else making those decisions? Because, there are some really big decisions to be made about securing the pyramid, because like when a club goes into administration,
yeah,
two things happen. One of which is, okay, the football creditors rule means that football players get their money, get fully paid, right?
Yeah.
But all the other people connected with the club get nothing. So think about I call it the modern day butcher, the baker, candlestick maker, which is the printer, the plumber, and the caterer, right? They all get nothing, which means a lot of those businesses go bust. A lot of those communities connected around a football club fold. You have people that don't know whether their club's going to exist from one day to another, or the fans that the heartache it causes, and that's all done because of a reckless owner that hasn't thought about it, or the reality is that there's not been enough financial support given from the top end, and that's the difference between killing a community or keeping it alive, and that's where we need to look at, and that's why I think Fair Game, we're really pro an independent regulator, and we're really looking at proper financial flow, because that's what people forget. These are communities like Halifax. What would Halifax do? Halifax goes bust, right? Again, goes through that whole heartache. All of those community, all those people connected with that club, those businesses, those fans, it's complete heartache. It's bankruptcy for loads of people, and that shouldn't be the case. And there's so many other clubs that are facing that at the moment, and it's just a lack of thinking about the bigger picture and thinking about what matters. And to all the people listening from all the different clubs in the National League, I'd urge you to get hold of us. We're easy to find on fairgameuk.org. Go onto our website, and just say, right, I want my club to be involved. I'll happily introduce you to the directors, the boards. This is something that we need to do, and join together, because it's only as a group of clubs really pushing it that we can make a difference. I'm not asking for those clubs to suddenly dedicate a whole member of staff to campaigning. That's our job. Mm-hmm. We just want you to have the faith to go, right, we need to be together. And when the moment comes that, a letter is signed by all these clubs, so the kind of the Fair Game logos and that stuff, you've got your fans and you're all campaigning with their local MPs, all of that, that's how we make a difference. By doing stuff together, we can be the campaigning arm, and we are the campaigning arm for our 34 clubs. If other clubs out there want to join us, then, get in touch. It's a now or never moment for football, and definitely for the clubs in the National League to grasp it and to make a difference.
Yeah.
I don't want to see any clubs in the National League go under or go down, but the cost of living crisis is making it real difficult for so many clubs.
Especially after COVID as well. Just to add that on it, it's such a difficult time for all football clubs, as well as obviously people themselves. I just want to ask, how did you get this sort of passion for Fair Game and trying to get this drive going and this initiative going forward?
Luke, I'll give you one little clue, right? I don't know if you can see what that badge is.
Yeah, Wimbledon.
AFC Wimbledon, right? So I am a big AFC Wimbledon fan, and our story tells you exactly the reason why, why I back that, and why I'm fully behind this, and why a fan of AFC Wimbledon knows how important the pyramid is. You know all of that, all the way down to when we started in the Combined Counties League again. and everything in between, and the respect I've got for every single club we've played and every single element of that, and knowing how much football means to all of those communities that we've met, whether it's Frimley Green or Sunderland. I mean, they've all got like half-orc communities. So it's like, for me, a real recognition of never again, and let's really stand up for the little guys. I'm on the board of AFC Wimbledon. I'm an directly elected member on the Dons Trust. So I'm speaking to you from Plough Lane tonight. We've got a meeting starting in 12 minutes that I've got to go to, and that's what really inspired me. And I've met so many brilliant, passionate people that need our support and need the support of an organisation like Fair Game to help them and make a difference. And that's what's done it for me. That's my passion, Luke. That's where it comes from. I just want the good guys to win for once.
Certainly, yeah. I totally get what you're saying. Just finally then, where can people find yourself, Fair Game, online?
Yeah, so we're on Twitter. So at Fair Game UK, you'll get all the kind of latest updates. Basically posting tonight from here. I think we've retweeted you already. I think the team have been doing that. You can find us on our website, which is fairgameuk.org, and you can email me at Niall, niall.cooper, COUPER, at fairgameuk.co.uk. And we're asking you all to join us and try and make a difference. So sign up for our newsletter. You'll get a regular Friday update, tell you all about what's going on. You can do that on our website, and basically join the fight. Come on, we can I do think we can all make a difference if we work together, Luke.
Yeah. Now, it's been an absolute pleasure to bring yourself on to talk about Fair Game and all the great things you're doing there. Hopefully, again, we'll speak soon.
Cheers, Luke, and good luck to everybody over the weekend. We can't all win, but let's all enjoy the weekend, and look forward to success throughout the season. Cheers, Luke.
Hopefully, we won't have Wimbledon at home again because of what happened last time when Halifax played Wimbledon. Got turned over.
All right, sorry. Cheers, Luke.
Cheers, Niall.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Yes, it was great to speak to Niall just then about everything Fair Game are doing. We'll probably have time to actually review the Dagenham York game. We may even have time to look at a few of last week's fixtures as well. I also want you to all get your opinions in on the chat, give me your questions, etc. We've already got a few. For those watching on Twitter too, get your questions in on there as well. So we'll start from the top then. I know we had one on Maidstone literally a second ago. Thoughts on Maidstone's form? Yeah, it seems to have dipped a bit, to be honest. It looks like you're being brought a little down to earth now in the National League after promotion. Had a fairly decent start, I think it's fair to say. Inconsistent, yes, but recently, you have gone on a bit of a downward spiral. And I think it does need to improve if you are wanting to survive in the National League. But yeah, a vital point picked up from a non-biased perspective against Halifax. Halifax getting an equaliser in the latter stages of the game seemed to be a very evening game too. But yeah, I think it's going to be a difficult season for Maidstone. But I think it's just about stabilising, surviving, and then hopefully any bonus from that would obviously be a bonus, in fact, yeah. And you've also got to adjust, as I've got it up here. Some of the opponents you've had have been very tough opponents. You look at Bromley, you look at Chesterfield, you look at Boreham Wood, even Barnet, and even Halifax after a good, strong win against York. They're strong sides in the league, and I think you look at the start that you've had. You've beaten Aldershot, you've beaten Torquay, York. You've picked up some vital points against the likes of Altrincham away from home. It's obviously it's difficult for a side adjusting to the National League, but I'm sure just based off your results so far, you can definitely survive this season. But you need to be getting that consistency right. And obviously, yes, you've had a tough start at the moment. Maybe potentially it's actually a bonus having a break from the league. You've picked up a point against Halifax. Prior to that, you'd been on a horrendous run, but like I've mentioned previously, against tough opponents. So maybe it is a good break to have a break from the league, FA Cup, something else to have your minds on. Yeah, and then obviously Notts away, not the best game to start off with next Friday, but still, it's a break from the league. You can readjust, and hopefully things can potentially improve slightly at Maidstone. The next question then that we've had in, please keep them in until 7:30. Then we've got our next guest on for tonight. The next one is thoughts on York. If you're on about them as a club, I'm not going to comment on that. I don't know. I don't dislike them or anything. But if you're meaning their form and stuff, I think it's probably a good opportunity to talk a little about the York-Dagenham game. A 1-1 draw, then. I will bring up the statistics here and read them out to you guys. Obviously, a 1-1 draw. Dagenham away from home. We'll probably take the point, in fact. But, I have to say it's a strong point from Dagenham. And I think York, getting a late equaliser is very, very beneficial for them too. I do have to say, you look at York and you look at the way they've been playing. I think, suffering a defeat to Halifax, and it was good for them to later defeat Torquay, although it is Torquay, and I'm saying this in that it's only Torquay, which is quite, hard to say at the moment when you think of Torquay recently, but, it's against poor opponents, and I think to get 3 points against them, it's a must-win game. Then heading into Tuesday's game, I think getting a point against Dagenham under the circumstances is probably a strong point, but I think I was just surprised to see such a reasonable and low-scoring result for Dagenham instead of a 4-3 or a 7-5 or whatever. That was actually the Wrexham versus Barnet game, in fact. But like I've kept mentioning, get your questions in the chat. I believe we had one or two more. We had... Well, this is a question. I do want to bring this up on a podcast itself as well. Who in your opinion is the best manager in the National League now? It's such a hard question, to be honest. You probably... I like the look of Luke Williams at Notts County. However, he's had the resources. I don't think you can say because they've had the resources, then they should be a good manager. Yes, they should, of course, but they're a good manager themselves within that. I also think you've got to respect what Mark White's doing at Dorking as well. Him being the owner as well. You look at where they've come from. But I think it just depends. If it's based off this season and it's based off, everything in total, then I think you'd have different. For example, in my opinion, if you're basing it off in total, the history of what they've done in the managerial career, or if they're just doing it at the club, or if it's just this season. Well, for me, I think it would have to be Mark White. But then if you're basing it off just this season, I think you'd probably have to say Luke Williams. It's quite a difficult question, and we'll probably analyse that in greater depth when I've got a few more guests on, hopefully in the upcoming weeks. Next person's come. Marine are quite a popularish club, reached the third round of the Cup against Spurs, plus got promoted from the 8th tier to the 7th tier, and are currently 3 points off the playoffs in it. Yeah, they certainly are. Blem's coming on, who's a Chesterfield fan, said, "Hi, Luke. With everyone on top form, who do you believe is the best team in the league? In addition, in order, Kabongo, Tishimanga. Do you mean best striker in the league? As you've mentioned a load of strikers, please just correct me on that. Best team in the league. Well, you probably have to say Notts at the moment, but I think it just depends." Just add to that question, Blem, and then hopefully I can come back to you very, very soon. Also, bring more questions in, everyone. It'd be great to have them. While we have got a bit of a wait, let's have a look at a few of the FA Cup fixtures coming up and some of the key ones. So, obviously, for some of that you do know, Ellis Platinum obviously does away days on YouTube. Great channel, by the way, and he always covers the FA Cup and sees a club progress through the rounds. He's, of course, going to Blyth versus Wrexham. To be honest, I think people are saying, Wrexham getting too much coverage. I can sort of see why he's going there from the FA Cup. You look at the documentary, it's a great opportunity for him to go there in the Emirates FA Cup to promote it. And to be honest, at this stage, what other fixtures are that really stand out to you? For me, I like the look of, Bury versus York, and I also like the look of Oldham versus Chester. But then again, you look at a side like Blyth, you look at the history between the two clubs. Some of you won't know, but it's a long history from quite a while ago where they actually played a game at St James's Park, I do believe. I can sort of see why he has gone there. But then again, I would have liked to have seen the Oldham versus Chester game, or potentially the Bury versus York game. Someone's also just said, who do you think is the best player? Who will achieve the most in their career, making it to the Championship or the Premier League? That's a very difficult question. As you've mentioned, Kabongo Tshimanga, probably the main shout. However, did he have his opportunity to get that big move, and has that sort of gone down? And I don't think that a club's not going to come in January potentially, but last season he had that horrendous injury that he did have. I do have to add. Prior to that, I'm sure he had a lot of offers from Football League sides, but he stuck it out with Chesterfield because they were doing so well in the league, I believe. And obviously that went all pear-shaped, and they had quite a poor end to the season and only just managed to get in the playoffs, where this season they've rebuilt. He isn't actually getting too much game time because of him getting back to full fitness, and I think now he's starting to get a bit more in the team. But has his opportunity, gone to get to a Football League side? I don't know. It's quite a difficult question. I also think Jeff King, you like the look of him, but then again, it's quite a difficult one to add. Langstaff, I like the look of him, but I think if he's going to progress any further, I think it will be with Notts. If Notts get promoted to the Football League, I think he'll stick there, and I think that's how he'll do it. I don't believe that he's going to leave Notts anytime soon either. Wrexham, doubt very much that any players will be leaving Wrexham with the money that they're on and just the sort of journey that they've hopefully got ahead. I do believe we've got our guest now to join us, which is obviously St Ives assistant manager Adam Fisher, I should say. It'll be great to get his perspective. St Ives are obviously playing the mighty Shaman, who are my team, on Saturday, so we'll be talking to him on what it means for St Ives, the town, to be playing a side of the calibre of Halifax Town, currently playing in the National League. Let's bring Adam in now. Adam, it's great to have you on to talk to us.
Hello.
How's it going then at St Ives and at the moment?
Yeah, really well, obviously. Yes, we're just preparing for Saturday, which obviously is a huge game for the club.
Yeah.
We are, all the preparations. I've literally just got to the ground and there's people everywhere doing bits and getting stuff ready. The boys will be here in the next 15 minutes ready to train. So no, it's been good. It's been a good week.
Yeah, it certainly has for St Ives. And I think, what was sort of the emotion when that draw did happen? Now, I do believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, this is the furthest St Ives have ever got in the FA Cup before. So what does it sort of mean to just have been in the hat before even managing to pull a side out the hat like Halifax, who are obviously a former Football League side themselves?
Yeah, it's a great question. After the Chase Town game obviously in the third round qualifier, we were all aware of it. The players were aware. The club was aware. The support on the day was amazing. And we as a club, we don't get thousands of people, but it was a really good attendance, and everyone knew at the club that if we won and we got through to the fourth qualifying round as a group, we'd make a little bit of history. And I think you can't get away from that, and it's they're the things that you kind of do it for and that you're in the game for. Once the final whistle went on that in that game a couple of weeks ago, just such a great atmosphere around the club. Everyone was really excited. Obviously the draw was then a couple of days later on the Monday, and I think at that point, Luke, you kind of course you want to, once you get to that stage, you want to test yourself. You want to be in against like the bigger clubs in the competition at that point, and obviously that's up to the kind of top of the National League. So we were no different to anyone else. We were sitting there listening to the draw, and we wanted to be at home to a big club, and luckily we got that. We're at home. I think the chairman probably would have preferred it to been away for the Coffers, but now we're at home. Everyone's just kind of embracing it, and we've had I think ITV are outside at the moment, and BBC were here Tuesday filming and speaking to a couple of the boys about their day jobs. So it was just great, and like the draw come out, and I think there was, if I'm right, there was only 4 clubs left. I think it was ourselves, Halifax, Notts County, and Colville. Yeah. And obviously, us being in Colville's league, it was kind of like start praying that we got Halifax or Notts County. Luckily, we got we got one, and I think it was the last draw out. I think. So yeah, so really, really excited, and yeah, really looking forward to it.
Yes, obviously St Ives currently part-time, I do believe. Averaging just over 200 people per match. What sort of attendance do you reckon could be there potentially on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to predict, Luke, in all honesty, because obviously, one, I don't know how many of you guys are coming down. So
about 100. So with it being the FA Cup, I'd probably expect about 100. Potentially a few more, something like that.
So I mean, so that's where it's difficult. So I think the last round, I think we had just kind of under 500. So I think with the kind of prep and the build up that's gone into it, we'd like to think, if we said Halifax bringing 100, we'd like to say it'd be up towards, 600-700, which would be, like kind of triple, like you said, triple of what we normally get. So yeah, so that's the aim. I think they've just kind of pushed it around like the local area. And like you said, we are part time, and that's what we know we've got to compete with. The lads have all got day jobs. They'll all be working today and coming into training. They're all working tomorrow. But yeah, really, really looking forward to Saturday, where they can kind of test themselves against kind of National League full-time players.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, and you mentioned the players. What does it actually mean to those players playing against a side like Halifax Town and playing so far in the FA Cup competition, one game away from actually qualifying for the actual FA Cup, the first round proper?
Yeah, it means everything. It doesn't matter. You start playing when I don't know, even in the FA Youth Cup at 16, 17, 18, it's a competition that at the start of the season, everyone will say, yeah, the league might be the priority, but the FA Cup, really, no one's going to turn it down. No one's going to not want to get as far as possible. We've obviously had a really good run in it. And the players are just so excited, and they just want to test themselves. I think that's what it is. It's a test. Like we haven't got kind of anything to lose, in the sense of, we've got this far. It's the furthest we've been. Yes, we'll give it a really good go. But ultimately, it's for them to test themselves. We've got young lads, either on loan from pro clubs or young lads that have been released by professional sides, and it's a little bit of a shop window in the sense of they can test them. So they want to probably, well, I know for a fact that some of them want to go on and play at that level still, which is great. So it's a real test for them, and I suppose they're happy because I think the chairman's put a few quid in their Christmas fund. So yeah, so another round will be another night out. But no, they going to hopefully train really well tonight. Good buzz around, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, certainly, and I think, like you keep mentioning, it's going to be such a great occasion for St Ives to be hosting in the final rounds of the qualifying rounds. But are you going in? And I think it's quite a difficult question to ask this because I don't think any side goes into a game expecting to lose. I don't mean that, but are you going into this game hoping to win? And I think that's quite a difficult, because I think every side always wants to hope to win into a game. But is it more about the occasion and enjoying it, or do you feel like you've really got a great opportunity here to progress into the next round? Because you look at Halifax at the moment, we're lower mid-table in the National League, just above the relegation zone, and your side, top half, just outside of the playoffs, and stranger things have happened before. So you're going into this game, guns blazing, hoping to win.
Joe, it's a brilliant question, and I think we have to enjoy the occasion. That's like the first thing, is because and whether we're at step 3, step 2, you don't get to this point every year. It's a cup competition. One goal, one decision, one bit of bad luck can knock you out. So we have to go and enjoy it, and I think that's the message to the players. But at the same time, we've done our homework on Halifax like they would have with us, and and ultimately every single game, and I know Ricky, our manager, myself, the players, all the rest of the staff, we go into every game wanting to win the game. And yes, sometimes we have to be realistic. And in the first qualifying round, we played Barking, who are 2 leagues lower than us. So we were on the other side of it, and we said then we want to be in a position where it's actually us going to a higher league club where there's less pressure, because obviously at home to Barking, there were 2 leagues below. I know the guys there got a good side, but we were favourites to win, and we ended up winning comfortably. But we have to kind of respect that. We have to respect Halifax. You know, obviously they're 2 leagues above. They're full time. You know, so for us, there isn't really any pressure. The only pressure is that what we put on ourselves is to kind of at least as a minimum, put in a performance, work hard, and try and compete. And if we do that, then it's FA Cup. You just don't know.
Yeah.
You just don't know what's going to happen. So I think it's a really good question, mate. And I think that's the key, is that ultimately, will we enjoy it more if we win? Of course, we enjoy 3 points on a Saturday more. You enjoy a Saturday more if you've got 3 points, and it will be no different this Saturday. So, you know, I think we have to go into it with being fully prepared, but also understanding that we're not the favourites, they are, and let's just give it a real go and see what happens.
How much does the FA Cup mean to a club like St Ives?
Yeah, it's massive, and you know we're at this level. We're constantly looking to improve the club, the ground. We had a brand new kind of 4G pitch put in only a couple of years ago. I know there's plans in place to kind of redo all the changing rooms and everything else. So I think, you know, and you know, every club has a budget, and you know, money from the FA Cup goes towards that. So I think from a monetary point of view, it's really important, and I don't care what anyone says. If anyone says it's not, then they've got to more money than sense, because especially at our level, and I include Halifax and the National League teams in that, and especially off the back of COVID, the monetary side for us is huge. Whether that's the prize money we've already made, the gate money that we've made and will make, you know, money behind the bar, whatever that may be, it's huge. So from a financial point of view, it's massive. From a club point of view, we're hoping that we get a good crowd, and we put in a good performance, and that will then help. Hopefully, people come back and then build on those attendances. So, from a footballing point of view, massive, and from a financial point of view, massive. So, like I said, we've overachieved what we were asked to do regarding what round we got to. So, like I said, now it's a bit of a free hit. We can enjoy the day, but with a plan to hopefully try and cause an upset and win the game.
Yes, certainly. I think an example, and as you've mentioned there, about potentially crowds increasing in the future. You look at a side like Kidderminster, what they did, and obviously Kidderminster, it's a totally different outfit to a side like St Ives. You know, they're in the National League North. You're in the, I think, is it Premier North? I think is what you call it. Yeah, Southern North. Yeah, I'm thinking because they do split it North and South, don't they? And I was quite surprised when we saw St Ives, because I thought the St Ives down south, but fortunately it's not. But yeah, do you think for a side like, you look at what happened to Kidderminster, how their crowds potentially increased after that FA Cup run? Obviously, like I mentioned, it's totally different circumstances. Do you think that it's a high potential, if you do go on to win this match, that crowds could increase in the future for St Ives?
Well, I mean that's the hope. I mean we're a small town, so you're always going to max out at some point. You know, we've got Cambridge United near us. You know, we've got Peterborough. We've got a couple of other teams that, you know, Peterborough Sports, that are in like the national leagues.
Yeah.
North and South. You know, Kings Lynn to an extent. So we've got a lot of teams kind of around us, but that doesn't mean that we can't kind of keep aiming and striving to kind of get more people down there. And ultimately, football's a fickle game, Luke. You know, if you're winning every week and you're at the top of the league, you're going to have more supporters than if you're at the bottom of the league and you're not playing very well. That's just a fact. So for us, after we had a local derby against Rushden Diamonds, and then we had a couple of FA Cup games at home, either side of one of the games away at Canvey. Mm-hmm. It has been there, and it has got slightly better. So for us, it's a case of, you know, seeing what it is on Saturday, and you know, and look, win, lose or draw, it's then hoping that they have an experience on and off the pitch that they want to come back to a midweek game on a Tuesday night against someone in our league. You know, that's the goal. So yes, we're not stupid in thinking that we're going to get thousands of people down here, because we're not. But if we can, you know, I think the chairman said the other day, if we could improve the attendance by 50 people every game. You know, you're looking at with gate money, bar money, food, whatever. You know, you're looking at possibly nearly another £1,000 a match day.
Yeah, it's
and the players really appreciate it. That's when the support's been there and it's been really good. And when it's here, it is really good. It really does make a difference, like any ground.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly. I agree with what you've said there. Yeah, I think something that sort of interests me is the potential of it being a replay. That's something that I'm sure St Ives would love to see come into the Shea Stadium, a stadium like that for a club like St Ives to go there. I know last season we had a similar level-sized club, and we had Pontefract Collieries, who was quite local to Halifax. And we went there, and then obviously we played them in a replay on a Tuesday night, and they brought 500 to us, and they only usually attendance-wise got about 300-400. So it was such a surprise to see that, and I think that's sort of the magic of the FA Cup and what it can do to a side like Pontefract and even a side like St Ives potentially, if they did potentially get a replay. But yeah, Adam, I think we're more or less out of time. It's really great to have spoken to you tonight.
I really appreciate
on St Ives, and thank you for coming on at such short notice as well.
No worries at all. Really keep up the good work, mate. Cheers.
Thank you. Great to speak to Adam just then on St Ives, the St Ives assistant manager that was. Keep your questions coming in the chat. We are going to be joined by Torquay United fan very, very shortly. We'll be speaking to him on Torquay's problems at the moment. Just a few people come in and said, Chesterfield FC. Yeah, great to have another Chesterfield fan in there. So it seems to be quite a lot tonight on Twitter and, of course, on YouTube too from Chesterfield. Imagine if York go up. Yeah, imagine. Yeah, someone's put York are sick of amount of chances they've created against Dagenham is insane. Yeah. Obviously getting that equaliser quite late on too was quite good for York, but obviously you're probably hoping for all 3 points. Yeah, obviously the other games, like I've previously spoke about, there's some great games also for people to potentially tune into if they're on radio, etc. Yeah, and I think something just about the FA Cup and even for National League sides as well, and just speaking to him then, if sides can get through this round, and you even look at Wrexham, Chesterfield, Halifax, if they got through, if Halifax defeat St Ives, there's potential of us playing a side like Portsmouth, side like Sheffield Wednesday, and it's the same for these clubs as well. This is a very crucial match for a lot of clubs at this level, in fact. So, you can't take games like these easy for certain sides, like Halifax going to a club like St Ives. I don't want to disrespect St Ives whatsoever, but it's a game that realistically we should be winning comfortably, which probably won't happen. It doesn't usually happen in these circumstances, but it's so crucial, the FA Cup, for a lot of sides, and just the financial implement that we'll get from this, Halifax being an example, is significant. We are joined by Thomas now, Torquay United fan. We were speaking to him on everything down at Torquay. Unfortunately, it's quite on a negative note, unfortunately for you, Thomas. So yeah, let's bring Thomas on now. Thomas, great to speak to you then. Yeah, you thought things were going to go a lot better after that 1-0 victory over Halifax, didn't you? It doesn't seem to be like that at the moment, does it? Sitting rock bottom of the National League. Such a surprise, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not been a great start, mate. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, that Halifax result was, I thought was going to be a bit of a turning point for us, despite how you didn't win that game. I'm not quite sure, because I think we only had 2 shots. You must have had about 30. Couldn't put any of them away. But it's just been difficult. We've just been on a really poor run. Can't seem to score many goals. Can't seem to keep many of them out either. And it's heartbreaking at the moment to see that we're bottom of the National League. I said to you, didn't I, before the ball was kicked, that I was aiming for 6th place. Tell you what, 16th would be pretty good for us at the moment.
Yeah.
The loss of quality players over the summer, we've highlighted that in the past, Luke. It's been a huge impact for us. Injury side as well, it's been quite difficult. Once again, we seem to be getting the fair share of injuries to our good players in the squad. And the formation, the tactics, I just don't think are quite right. It's we're not playing brilliant football. I don't think there's a game yet we've completely dominated from start to finish.
Yeah.
And this weekend in the FA Cup, we're playing National League South opposition. And if we can't win that, then I do wonder going forward from that whether Gary Johnson will be in charge for the next game against Altrincham next weekend.
Yeah, that's quite a big statement, that, when you mention Gary Johnson, because he is overall loved, isn't he, by Torquay United fans. He's been there a fair few years now, you know. And I know it's heartbreaking to say, and I think every time you come on, I always mention this moment, the playoff final. And I had Adam Summerton on a few weeks ago, and he was talking about, you know, that was their opportunity. That was their opportunity to get out of this league, and they probably won't get one like that for a very, very long time again. And you look at last season, and I think as a fan like yourself, I think Torquay fans, yes, we're probably hoping for playoffs, but I think we're expecting mid-table after the players that they've lost. But this season, it sort of felt like, right, we've had that season now of adjusting, rebuilding. It's time now to readjust and hopefully start to climb the league, because you actually finished the season quite strong, didn't you, the previous season, compared to how you started, where this season, I don't know if it was the recruitment, I don't know if it's Gary Johnson's tactics. It just seems to have all gone wrong. And 24th place in the league for a side like Torquay, in my opinion, a traditional football league side Torquay United are, to see them potentially going, not for the first time, but going back to the National League South is quite damaging. And I think it'd be damaging for the club as well. And, you know, you look at the attendances, for example, Torquay have always been well supported at this level for, you know, the size of the club, etc. You know, they're getting over 2,000 on a daily basis for the bigger matches, potentially 4,000, 5,000 in fact. And look at them now, 1,500 I saw the other night, and it's just not looking good, is it, at all, at Torquay United at the moment?
Yeah, it's not a nice place to be. I think the best way I can sort of describe it is there's not one individual that's at fault for where we are. You look at the owners who don't really speak to us at all, like we don't really know what's going on with the ownership of the club. What we do know is that the owners have been looking to move out of Plainmoor into a purpose-built stadium, a bit like York have got. I went up to York last weekend. That's sort of the vision that they've got. The problem is they own a lot of speedway tracks that have closed down, and that's not the most reassuring thing you want when you see your owners of the football club are having to close all these speedway tracks down that they own. And then that filters down to the moment in the playoff final. We really went for it that season, obviously the COVID season, and by, you know, the one missed penalty, a lot could have changed for the club. And I recall that interview you had with Adam Summerton. That was a great interview, by the way. A lot of us walked out of Bristol City saying that was probably our moment. Not that we really wanted to look back and think that was the moment, but we've lost, again, like I said earlier, we've lost a lot of good players. I mean, Connor Lemonade-Evans, Armani Little, Joe Lewis, Ben Winter, just to name a few, have all gone to, well, bar Ben Winter, they've all gone to Football League clubs. And we've brought in my mind, we've brought in some potentially good players. Young players from clubs lower down in the division. But this season, we started okay. Like, we got a point at home to Oldham, and then obviously we went up to Halifax and beat you guys. But it's just, I just look at the players that we've got in the team, and I don't think we should be bottom of the table with the players that we've got. Now, whether some of them are underperforming, maybe some of them just aren't good enough for this level, we'll wait and see. I mean, again, this weekend's massive. I mean, right now I'm staying at my mate's house who support Hampton and Richmond Borough. And of course, fate has brought us together for the FA Cup this weekend. It's huge, absolutely huge. And going on about recruitment, you gave Gary Johnson sort of the benefit of the doubt last season, because yes, our season did get prolonged into the playoff final, and then we were a good couple of weeks behind everybody else. And then this season, there's no excuse. There is no excuse. He's had all the time to get the players in. He's brought these players in, and they're just not clicking. And he made a very interesting statement, Gary, after York, saying that he does he still have the trust of most of all the players, and he said, I have trust in most of them. So there's obviously a couple that he's not very happy with.
There was something that he, I think it was that he said, was it after the Halifax game? There were a game afterwards, and he came out, and I can't remember the comment, but it was quite a weird comment from someone like Gary Johnson, who's obviously so experienced in the game, and it was quite concerning. And I think it might be me looking into it too much. I can't actually remember that specific comment, but I remember it alerting me and thinking, should you really be saying that? I think it was something like I think they'd lost, and he said, I don't know what we can do from here. It was something on those lines or something. And I thought, as the manager, you can't say that. I think he said he might have said something on the tactics. It was something like that. And I remember thinking, and I thought, what? I was just so surprised by someone like Gary Johnson to say that. And, you look at the current position and how you start the season, like you've mentioned, you were doing okay. And I think that's more concerning, is the fact that how far you've slipped down the table. Since then, I've always seen Torquay. It's always been a tough place to go, hasn't it? It's always, even last season, it was always I remember Halifax thinking, Torquay away, it's going to be a difficult game, that is. I'd take a point there. And I think a lot of people thought like you've beaten some strong sides over the years at Plainmoor. And you look at this season and the shelling, even going to Wrexham, Torquay have never really been known as a side that you batter. They lose by fine margins. If they do lose, they lose 1-0, 2-0. Where it seemed against Wrexham, they sort of lied down and just took it 6-0. I know it's the racecourse, but still, losing 6-0 away from home isn't great, especially with numbers that you are consistently still taken away from home, even in the way that you're playing at the moment. It's over 200 at York City Stadium. It may have even been more.
251 with rail strikes. I thought it was an incredible attendance for us.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. And the way you're currently playing. And I just think, it's very concerning. And I look at statistics too, lack of shots, lack of goals, defensively even, which is quite surprising as well, how poor you've been in the defensive areas. It's just very, very concerning. And I'm going to ask you the question from now, as a fan, and I think I've asked you this before, but do you think Gary Johnson's time at Plainmoor is up?
For me, it's all going to depend on this weekend's FA Cup result.
Yeah.
Quite a lot in the fan base. We did a poll for Talkie Talk in our latest video, and I think it was 2/3 said yes, if we lost to Hampton, then Gary should go. And I think 1/3 said no, keep him. I think the problem we've got is the finances at the club are not as what they used to be.
Yeah.
I don't think we've got a lot of money to spend. Gary Johnson, I would imagine, is on quite a good wage for an experienced manager. Whether we can afford to sack him, I don't know. I don't have the details on that at all. But you get to a point where if relegation to the National League South would be a disaster for us. It would be an absolute disaster. And how much further do you let it slip until you reach a line? I mean, no disrespect to Hampton and Richmond, but they're 18th in the National League South. If we can't beat them at home and can't advance, because our record in the FA Cup's terrible, I can't defend it. And I almost feel like it's almost the end of an era approaching. And I really don't want, we all wanted Gary to take us to the Football League and he can retire happy because he's achieved so much in his career. But in my opinion, and my opinion only, if we do not beat Hampton and Richmond in the FA Cup, then I think we'll need to look for somebody else to come in and maybe give a new start to this team. But there's no real credible replacements that we can think of that would do better. And do you really want to lose the experience that Gary Johnson has? We're in sort of a catch-22 situation, because a lot of people, he turned the club around when he came in, when we were struggling in the National League South originally. He's turned the whole mentality of this club to be one from where we were looking at just bottom half National League South going nowhere to a team that, bar maybe a couple of dodgy refereeing decisions in the playoff final, we could be in a Football League right now.
Yeah.
It's amazing what one kick of the football can do to a club, but the performances haven't been good enough, Luke. And there's promise, but I'm not seeing improvements quickly enough. And we desperately need a win because we haven't won at home yet all season. And if we can't do it against Hampton and Richmond Borough, then I'm afraid I think Gary's time might be up,
Yeah,
which
it
is very
do-
hard and sad
yeah.
for me to say.
Potentially doomsday then for Gary Johnson. And yeah, also, do you think it is a very, and I think you probably made it quite obvious as well, do you think it's a very strong possibility? And yes, it is still early, just to add, we're only 13 games into the season, and one win could probably in fact take you out of the relegation zone based off goal difference, etc. But do you think there's a strong possibility that Torquay could drop to the National League South?
It's early days still. I mean, I said a few weeks ago in one of our videos, if you have to be rock bottom, it's better to be rock bottom sort of this stage of the season when you've got time to rectify it, where you've got time to make improvements and get the results. But I mean, we're already a quarter of the way through the season, Luke. It goes like that in the National League, and we've got some tough fixtures coming up. I mean, we're on the TV next weekend, so we're going to be behind all the others who play. I'd like to think we can turn it around, and I think we should be good enough to be out of relegation worries at some point. But as we've experienced in the past, no team is too big enough to go down. And I don't want to sound negative because I love Torquay United Football Club. I'm a passionate Torquay United Football Club. But if I see stuff that isn't happening and doesn't look right, I'm going to say something. I mean, you've experienced with Halifax, you've lost a lot of good talent over the summer, and you've had a really slow start, and you are sort of turning a corner now, aren't you? You're finding your feet a little bit, maybe.
It's it's a bit hit and miss, to be honest, at the moment. But yeah, I remember when we were talking before the season about the players that Torquay had brought in, and I was actually quite negative on the recruitment that you'd brought in, and I think you were a bit optimistic, I do believe, on that it could go either way with the sort of players. But I was quite shocked by, and you've mentioned the financial side of it as well, but I was quite shocked by the players that they lost and the players that they replaced with them. Like last season, it was quite similar to the season that just narrowly missed out on promotion with the players that you've lost. But then you thought, well, they haven't had a particularly great season anyway, so maybe it's a good thing to have a bit of a stronger rebuild. Just doesn't seem to have worked, does it, this season at all? Does it feel like on a Saturday there's no game plan, there's no identity about Torquay?
Yes and no. I'm not quite sure Gary fully knows how to utilise his players tactically. We tend to go 3-5-2, but that quickly turns into a 5-3-2 because we just don't have enough play up front. I mean, I was saying to my Hampton mates the other day, we were recording, we've got a lot of young players in that team we've got a couple of players with experience, but it's a very young team that we've got, and it takes time to develop these young players into going from sort of the under 23 system into, a very physical National League side, National League division. But going into York last Saturday, it was more just in hope than expectation that we pick up a point, because we've only won two games all season, and they've both been away from home. You can't seem to win at play more.
It's more than us.
Yeah, but it's hard. We don't seem to have much pace in the team, and I keep crying out about it. And we play with wing backs, but there's so much space out back. I mean, York should have been 3-4-0 up at half time. How they didn't take their chances, I don't know. And we had a great chance just before they scored, and it was our own doing at the back. Defensive needs to be a bit more physical, and then it went under the keeper and spilled into the net. Fine margins at the moment, and when you're at the bottom, not a lot goes your way. I mean, this weekend, I wouldn't even say we were favourites against Hampton and Richmond, purely because our home form is pretty poor, and we all desperately want to have a good cup run this year, because we've struggled to beat National League South sides in recent years in the FA Cup.
Similar to us.
So I just get the feeling this weekend is a very, very important moment in our club's history, because anything other than a win, and I really don't know. I just can't see anything turning, Luke, in all honesty. I'm used to seeing Torquay United struggle. We have the occasional good season, but it's not for want of trying. There's no doubt the lads that we've got in the team are trying, but it's just not quite working and clicking at the moment. But you've got to get to a point where if it's not clicking, you've got to make changes, whether that's on the pitch or managerial or whatever. But one thing for sure, the Yellow Army, we're very passionate fans, like all football fans, and we just want what's best for the football club. And it just seems like there's this dark cloud that we had before we got relegated to the National League South lingering over again.
Yeah.
But we've still got time to recover the situation, and I hope we do. But this will be a very important month for us going forward.
Yeah, Thomas, I do really appreciate you coming on to talk about Torquay. Hopefully we'll speak again in more positive circumstances.
Cheers, Luke. All the best.
Cheers. Yeah, that more or less concludes tonight's edition of the Talking National League podcast. Cheers to everyone that's tuned in. Cheers to all our guests. It's much appreciated. Go and follow me on Twitter. Go and follow all our guests on Twitter. I don't think there's anything else left to say. Then good luck to all your sides on Saturday, and we'll hopefully see you next week at the same time on Thursday. Bye for now.